what we'll do is we're going to learn through Rav Kook the concept of what Mashiach ben Yosef is, Mashiach ben David, a known Rav Kook, I guess, article. Actually, it was a speech, and then through that, I want to hopefully, with the time, try and finish on time. Connected to, and you'll probably be able to do it yourself also, connected to what's going on in our country. There's a fantastic article by Rav Eyal Vered. If we don't manage to go through the whole thing, which we won't, I'll send you the link and recommend you guys to read it. Okay, with that said, here, shared screen, we're going to learn something called the Misped Yerushalayim. It's found in the book called Ma'amarei Araya. Misped Yerushalayim was actually the Hesped Rav Kook just showed up to Eretz Yisrael, and he basically was asked to give a hesped when Herzl passed away. And this is the hesped that he gave, which I'll already explained to you how he's talking public, right? Like who was able to follow. But this is the hesped that he gave, and at the end of the hesped, he connects it to Herzl. But I think also, once we start understanding the conceptual ideas of what Mashiach ben Yosef and what Mashiach ben David is, you'll understand why he decided to speak about it. There is a letter from his first father-in-law, Derek, that wasn't so happy with his hesped, and apparently in the letter back, he somewhat apologizes for the way he gave it over, because Herzl wasn't exactly the cup of tea of the religious people back then. Also not exactly a cup of tea of the religious people now, but Rav Kook being Rav Kook had his way of expressing, explaining stuff. All right, so we're going to start. Everyone's with me? Yeah, I'm guessing. Excellent.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so it starts off. Just giving like a little background. Shnei Meshichim. ביום ההוא יגדל מספד בירושלים כמצפד הדרום מגידון וזכריה. As I'll say that no one really understood where it was from. Tandan Uziel explained it in Tirgem. I'm skipping to the next paragraph. Chazal. Amu Shaisped. Do you see my mouse by any chance?
Yes. We see
we see the cursor. Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right, that'll just help us. Okay. Chazal Amu Shaisped Yeh Mashiach ben Yosef Shenera. The misped that was spoken back then. Well, it says will be about something in the future. So Chazal had the machloket if it's about the Yetzer Hara, about Mashiach ben Yosef. So first thing we see is Mashiach ben Yosef died. וצריך להבין, בכלל למה אנו צריכים לשני משיחים, משיח בן יוסף, משיח בן דוד. והרי התכלית המכוון הוא נשיא אחד יהיה לכולם, ודוד אבדי נשיא להם לעולם. Right? So Rav Kook says, why do we have this concept of two Mashiach? Lichora, you'd imagine that we should only need one Mashiach. What's the idea behind it? אמנם כשם שיצר השם יתברך באדם הגוף והנשמה, ולעומתם הכוחות הנוטעים. One second. Let me just turn off the WhatsApp. Sorry. Option. Pause this. Hold on a minute. Sorry. Forgive me. And this. Okay, we're back. So, Rav Kook says, אומנם, כשם שיצר השם יתברך באדם הגוף והנשמה, right? We have a גוף והנשמה, ולעומתם הכוחות הנוטים להחזיק קיום הגוף על נכונו, ולשלוחו לו, ולפותחו, וכן הכוחות המחזיקים כוח הנשמה הרוחנית, ומאדים ומשכנים אותו. ותכלית השלמות הוא שיהיה הגוף חזק ואמיץ, ומפותח כראוי. והנשמה הבריאה וחזקה ומשוחררת. So just like we have a person's body, that you have your body, you have to do exercise, you have to eat correctly, you should go sleep enough. Same thing with like we have in our body. We also have for הנשמה, במשוחררת מוזכרת אחריה בכוחה האדיר את כל כוחות הגוף המאמצים והחזקים לתחתית השכל הטוב והטהור, חפץ עליון ברוך הוא בעולמו. So we also want to have a healthy, spiritual element. Also, Am Yisrael has these two elements. One thing before we continue, when you learn Torah Rav Kook, but Torah Rav Kook is actually Torah Sod, Hashem created in this world, in a way, staples, all right, outlines of how everything exists. So when I say to you, a goof, a person is built out of a goof and nefesh, the same thing, almost any living entity in the world, on a macro and on a micro level, has the same concept. So what I'm talking about now, nation, you have to look at nation also as a living organism, the body. See, also for Am Yisrael, there's something that's similar to the guf. That you want to have with the nation, right? You want to have a healthy nation that has a good economy, and it knows how to build and upkeep. להיות עם קדוש להשם אלוהי ישראל, ולהיות גוי אחד בארץ לאור לגויים. So you have on one hand the physical one, which our job is to be a utopia to the rest of the nations, the best at running a country, and the best at running a judicial system, and a army, and a police, and if it's financial, and everything has to do with how to run a goof nation. We want to try and have a healthy one. And the second part is also the spiritual element to the nation. The difference between the two. The difference between the two is that you can see a healthy body also by where? Other nations. So just like I can go look around and even see with not Jewish people how they're able to keep a healthy body. They sleep or work out and so on, take care of themselves. Same thing when it comes to as a nation. I can go and see, oh, look at those, the American society. Oh, they totally know what they're doing. Or you look at the Chinese. Oh, they're such invaders, the Indian or whatever. And even in a way, you can even look just at simple at nature as a whole, as the animals. They all have goof, and what a healthy goof is. But the second element, the spiritual element, that's something special for Misha. עצמם שעל זה נאמר, השם בדד ינחנו בגויים לא יתחשב. מצד תורת ישראל וקדושה עליונה המיוחדת ישראל, עם קדוש. So Am Yisrael is similar to a nation on the concept of the national, I guess you can say, level. But when it comes to the spiritual, the non-physical level, that's what sets us apart, makes us special, makes us, in a way, to have something that the others don't have. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. I can't see you guys because I have the screen, and I can't hear you because you're all mute. All right. I'm moving on to Yosef Yehuda. Okay? At least the promise say it. Okay, fine. No problem. All right. So we'll move on to Yosef. והנה, מתחילה הוכנו בית כוחות הכלליות בשני השבטים שהוכנו למלוך בישראל, Ephraim ויהודה. So when Hashem created us, He gave both of these kochot, I don't know what the word would be in English, both of these kochos, these powers in Am Yisrael, but representing with two different people, Ephraim ויהודה, שהוא כלל Yosef and Yehuda, and right, because Ephraim is from Yosef. וכמו בתחילה, מעשה אבות סימן לבנים, יוסף היה משביר, ששלח אותו אלוקים, לפייטה הגדולה, להחיות עמיו. Yosef was the one sent forward to get the gashmiut of Am Yisrael ready in Mitzrayim, right? He was the one to go set forth. והחיית יעקב בניו בחיי החומר, לחם ופיעתיו, בעת שגם כן את כל הארץ באו למצרים לשבור. So the whole, everyone came, Yosef was at the head. Yosef is the cosmopolitical Jew. He's able to speak all the 70 different languages. He's able to be a chameleon and know how to blend within the nation. And that's similar to, right, the Gashmi part of the nation is we're similar to the other nation. I'm a nation, you're a nation. So we have someone called Yosef that's able to do that. Makom Yada Koach Dushato. But Yosef had something which set him apart from, I guess you can say, someone that's just into Gashmiut. He still knew his Ruchani elements to him. When he got connected to his Ruchaniut, אין עשיו נופל כי אם ביד בניה של אחר. קניין נאמר ובאי ארבע נזיל בנגה. Just like when you have an axe that comes and cuts down a tree, right? An axe is made out of wood in a way, so the wood is going to, because Yosef in a way is able to talk that talk, speak that, lingo and the slang of the nation, and hey, I know how to be just like you. When he has now that Ruchani element to him, in a way, I guess, grounding him, he becomes superpower. Okay? What makes Yosef so successful is the fact that he's able to grasp on to remember Yaakov. Think about it. What would have happened with Potiphar if he wouldn't have remembered his Yaakov side to him? Forget about it. It would have turned into a regular Mitzri. But the fact that he still held onto his heritage, that was what giving him the push forward. There's actually, I was going over stories tonight because I'm trying to make a learning daf mikor for Avot Banim in our shul for Yom Ha'atzmaut. I was going over Rav Mordechai Eliyahu stories because there's a story I want to try and find, and he has in the comic books for the kids, if you guys know what I'm referring to. So he has a whole bunch of stories how he stood his proud Jewness, and that's where he got his respect when he went all over the world. The president of Brazil, and when he went to Spain, and all these places. When he stood up to what he really believed in, then all of a sudden, you're different. You're something special. Yehuda, miyuchad lekol Yisrael. But Yehuda is different. He's something interesting, special. Hamiyuchad hayta Yehuda lekodsho. Ve'ad Yehuda Yosef ne'emar ohel yishkan ba'adam. So we'll explain. Yehuda was always, I guess you could say, the more spiritual. Even when it says Vet Yehuda shalach lefanav, why did he go down first to Mitzrayim? It says to set up the Beit Midrash, right? So Yehuda is the one that's in charge of the spirituality of the nation. Tachlit bchirat malchut Beit David haya. This is important. You better kochot michlalim keechad. This is a big chiddush of Rav Kook. That Beit Yehuda, it's not Beit Yehuda, it's Beit David. David HaMelech was meant to somehow, what's the word? Fuse the two elements together. And it's not to erase one or the other, but they're actually complement each other. So it was to fuse this concept of Yosef and concept of Yehuda together, and then by fusing it together, he's actually going to use both these superpowers to complement each other. Okay? והמוזל במדרש נאמר בדוד אדמוני, כמו שנאמר בעשיו, אלא שנוסף בו יפה עיניים. במידת סנהדרין הורג. עיניים reference to רוחניות. קובץ הגבורה חומרית וכל תלוי בה לתוקף עם וממלכה גדולה ואדירה רבתי בגויים, עם העילוי הרוחני היותר מורום וקדוש. I would add, besides that also, maybe does he talk? I think he maybe says it. I don't remember if he says, but the concept is where does also David come from though? It comes from Yehuda. So as much as the fusion, there's still the Yehudaness is what's meant to be leading. If there was two mamlachas, even during the time of David, in a way, there was two mamlachas. There was Yehuda and there was the rest of the nation and the Shomron, right? And if Mamlechet Beit David wouldn't have, what's the word? Lazniach, to no, you don't take care of something. Muznach. What's the word? All right. What?
No, it's not take care of it properly. No.
Right, yeah, but there's a word for it. Okay. If Beit David wasn't going to lazniach the Ummah, the rest of the Seret Shvatim, it would have been great. But what happened was, Masu b'malchut Beit David, עד שנחלקה האומה, 10 השבטים, ואפרים, שהוא כוח יוסף בפני עצמו, ויהודה בפני עצמו. היה הכל מאוחד בכוח אחד על ידי עץ יהודה, שהיה כולל גם כן כוחות של יוסף.
Neglect,
right?
According to
Neglect.
Google Translate.
That's the word I was looking for, neglect. Thank you. So what happened was, if you remember the story, this is the way Rav Sherki explains it, that we had Shlomo, then all of a sudden Shlomo started to build all these Beit Avodah for his wives, and he didn't really focus on the Am too much, and the people in Yisrael weren't so happy with it until they had someone that was giving them attention in the right form, right? And that's why it split up. And the problem was with Rechavam is that and Yerovam is that one gave the attention needed, and the other one missed out on the opportunity to mend the neglection. So ידבר עמים תחתיו ורומים תחת רגלינו. יבחר לנו את נחלתנו, את גאון יעקב אשר אהב סר. ועל ידי קיבוץ בית הכוחות יחדיו היו שניהם מתעלים. הכוח החומרים היה מתעדן ומתקדש מצד קרובתו את הקדושה מיוחדת לישראל. והכוח החוני היה מתחזק ומתאמץ בכוח החיים בלב האדיר כדי לגלות הודו ותפארתו על ישראל. עד שקרני הודו היו מאירים גם כן על העולם כולו. וכמו שיהיה לעתיד לבוא, והיה שורש ישי אשר עומד לנס עמים ירא אליו, גויים ידרשו, והייתה מנוחתו כבוד. לא מלחמה בין שני הכוחות המתנגנים, כי כמעט מנוחה שלמה, שהוא הכבוד היותר עליון ונישא. אמנם אבותינו הרטו אלה, שנתחלקה מלכות בית דוד, וכל אחד מן הכוחות השונים, שהיו רואים להתאחד דווקא, התחיל להתפתח בפני עצמו. כאילו דבר אין לו עם משנהו. מזה יצא מה שיצא להפסיד כללי לשני העניינים שבאבותינו הרבים. So what happened was we were meant to be used and we were meant to complement each other. And think about it. Think about how incredible it would be is that your healthy body complements your mind and your spirit. I'm not giving myself no musar because I don't take care of my body. I don't do any exercise, and I just got told off from a physical therapist about it. But basically, if you have a healthy body, then it helps also right with your mind, and your spirituality also pushes forward your healthy body, and you're like become a superpower. Nothing could stop you, right? But what happened was no, they split up. And what happened was Ephraim שהופקד מתחילה על סבב בית יוסף מפני כלשוני המעשה, והיה שלמה הנער כי יוסף מלאכה הוא ויפקוד אותו בכל סבב בית יוסף, הנע לגמרי מהקדושה נמנה המיוחד בישראל, ואותי השלרה אחרי גוך, ומזה יצא הסילון הממאיר חטא עבודה זרה, שגרם התפתחות הנטייה של השבי שיש בישראל להאמין לצד הרעה בארגון. What happened was, when you don't feed עד מידת צער יפיים מאמין הוא יבולל לפיים הוא היה עוגה בלי הפוכה. So what happened was, there was a void created because there was no ruchaniyut. And when you're very much hanging out and acting like a nation, but you have no ruchaniyut involved, that void has to be filled with something. And then the second or the most, I guess, amazing, uplifting, conceptual idea that there is at that time fills that up. And I would say back then it was Avodah Zarah. Nowadays it's clearly more like Gilui Arayot and so on. And it has to be filled with the newest, most, futuristic, liberal, conceptual thinker, post, whatever it is, has to be filled up. ויהודה, בחוסר לו הצד המעודדו בחומריותיו, היה צריך להשלימה רוחנית גדולה ואדירה, שתספיק להמציא גם כן את הצד החסר, החומרי. So Yehuda was now missing the body, the physical element, וכיוון שלא עלה למעלה זו, נתבזבז הכוח הרוחני גם כן עד שלא החזיק במעמד, וכשל גם יהודה עימה. ולשונם במעליהם אל השם למרות עניי כבודו. What happened is, Yehuda, when he only has ruchaniyut, so your spirituality becomes so manifested with itself that you have to keep on finding the new thrill. and you also fall eventually to Avodah Zarah. והנה, גם אחרי פירוד, אם היו על כל פנים מתאחדים לדעת שלכל אחד יסגל לו את נטייתו הפרטית, אבל באופן שיקבלו זה מזה את הצדדים הטובים, ויהודה יקבל אפרים את הערכים והנטיות המוכשרות, בו לשלול האומה בתוקף חומריותה האנושית הכללית, ואפרים יקבל מיהודה, את הכוח העליון המיוחד לישראל, ודרכי קדושה, תורת ומידות, קדושתו והכשרה מגבוהה ורוח הקודש שמוכנים זה, היה מחץ הולך ומתרחב. But they still could have done tshuva and worked with each other, but no, they didn't. And that was missed out, and they just kept them growing apart. אלא שכיוון שחילקו חלוק מהממלכה. ועל ידי ההשפעה המאחדת הלא הדבר מחויב שהצד הגובר יהיה לו המצב העליון רוחני המיוחד לישראל, שהיא הנשמה המאחדת מחיית הגוף, וזה לא רצה ירבעם, ועל כן, all right, we'll skip this part. ועל כן, next paragraph, ועל כן, עומד בכל משך זמן הגלות המצב הכללי של האומה בדרך ניגודי של אלה שני הכוחות. Because of this, once we went to Galut, these two conceptual ideas, healthy body, right, healthy nation, physical, and healthy nation, spiritual, cannot mold and get together. They're always going to have some type of contrast, and they can't handle this connecting. And there always will be a fight between the two. שלפעמים מתגלה נטייה לחוזק הלאומי, החומרי, ויותר צרכים אנושיים הכוללים, שנובע מקור, מיסוד הנטייה המיוחדת ליוסף ולאפרים, ולפעמים מתנערת הנטייה הרוחנית לקיומה של התורה והפרחתה, ויצר רוחני המיוחד לישראל, להרים קרן ביראת השם, באוהבתו של תורה ודרכיה. And they're just not going to be able to connect. So if I have to give a quick, not quick, but if I have to do a sikkum, the Meshiach ben Yosef is basically the person or the concept of the nationality of the nation. And because of this, further down, Rav Kook goes and he hints that there was an element to Herzl that was Mashiach ben Yosef conceptually. Because his idea was what? Was to take Am Yisrael and bring Am Yisrael back to Eretz Yisrael and create a nation, right? A working, moving, a nation, country. And that's basically what Mashiach ben Yosef is meant to be. He's meant to make this proud of person that's proud of his nationality. Okay. Then there's a concept of Mashiach ben David of Yehuda that's meant to be the Ruchani element, and that's why is one die and the other one stay alive. So Mashiach ben Yosef died because his job is in the way he's finished. Now Rav Kook connects to Herzl that he died actually at a younger age is because he was full of sorrow. He couldn't manage to get the religious and the non-religious to work together, and it's the sorrow just hurt him so much. So in a way, you can say Mashiach ben Yosef dies because he can't handle the molding of the two together. Okay, one hand, his job might be done, and he's able to make now the proud person, and now we can now piggyback on to the Yehuda part and then create this Mashiach ben David. That's the mold of the two. But the second element of why Mashiach ben Yosef Kilu, in the way finishes or dies, is because the turnover is too awesome, too big. Okay, am I making sense for anyone right till now?
Yeah, but it would seem then like Mashiach ben Yosef is more of a concept, where Herzl was the Yuzam of making him move forward, but we're kind of still in a matzav of Mashiach ben Yosef, even though Herzl's dead for 120 years already.
Meaning?
Because we're still in that matzav of kind of going from the Gashmi to the Ruchani.
Right. So well, let's two parts to it. Number one is, for sure, the concepts of Mashiach. I'm sorry, Avi. The concepts of Mashiach are probably more conceptual ideas than actual physical people. Okay. A very clear example would be we always say Beit David. And if you look at Beit David, we know that there was a lot of different people along the way that were Beit David. So it's more of maybe like what he said, an idea. It could be that eventually there will be a Mashiach, Mamash, a Mashiach ben David, and he'll be from David HaMelech, and he'll be able to lead us to the, out to the sunset. But the idea, and you have to also remember this, when it comes to Am Yisrael, and when we're talking about a nation, we're not talking about a person. In other words, we have to zoom out a second and remember we're on a time frame here, and in nation terms. Okay, so 2,000 years of Galus is a huge amount, chunk of time. And when talichim and things happen, also they're not going to be in a person's lifetime of 80, 90, 100 years. It's going to have to take it longer to talk about at a national level. Okay, so even when I'm passing the sharvit, passing the torch, passing the what's the sharvit in English? The scepter, one to another. All right, it's going to take time. There are different points that people want to say when it started. Okay, so Rav Sharkey at one point said that it's clear that once the Oslo Accords happened, that's it. Mashiach ben Yosef was finished. Because what happened was you build up the nation to a certain point that the nation now was doing something to harm itself, right? The Chilonut, in a way, did an amazing job of building a country and building a proud people, which is the whole concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. But the second the Chilonut made a decision that's actually now hurting it, we're at a time period that we're moving on. Okay? It's quite, I would say, clear that what's happening now out in the streets and so on is the final stage of the passing on the scepter. And for that, we will move on to the following.
Just two quick questions before you move on.
Please.
One, is there a dati aspect to Yosef at all? Like, is there anything religious about it? And also, I was thinking like Bnei Ephraim, who wanted to leave Mitzrayim early, is that connected? Because they
of course
wanted the land?
They wanted to move on, make the So, okay, great question. So number one is Mashiach ben Yosef definitely has a religious. If he wants to be successful, he has to have the religious element to it. Remember, Yosef didn't fall with Potiphar because he remembered Yaakov. If we keep on going through, Shaul HaMelech, right, which was Mashiach Yosef, was successful until when? Until he didn't want to pass on. In other words, as long as he was keeping the Torah and stuff, he was great. The second all of a sudden he started to ignore the Navi, that's when all of a sudden what? He's his downfall. You always have to, all right, we go on in life. We won't get into the, okay. Yeah. You could say that a healthy time of passing on the scepter was actually done during Megillat Esther. There's a fantastic shir by Rav Yeshua Shapira that he explains what's going on now using this term. You could summarize it in a minute. It's passing of Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, but he brings nice ideas and points out different parts in history. The thing is, he's talking in Rav Yeshua Shapira language, which is like Rav Kuki, Talmud type of stuff. So if you're not used to it, some people get lost. Well, the article about to read, which is the classic Rav Eyal Beveret, who knows how to take concepts that you can't even see my hands, they're so high, and bring them down to really, really simple understanding that you can totally connect to. And that's what we'll read. Now, regarding your second question, what happens is, if you think about it, the main part of Mashiach ben Yosef is to be proud of your nationality. So the lower level of it is to say the Torah of Rosh Shofar Hirsch, who said, what does it mean to be Or L'Goyim? It's to be amongst the Goyim and be that, wow, look at that Jewish doctor, look at that Jewish accountant within the Goyim. Rav Kook's big machoket, well, Rosh Shofar Hirsch had a letter back and forth with Rav Kalisher. Rav Kalisher wrote to him, can you please, join and give haskama to this tzionut idea? And he said, what you call a very big mitzvah, I call Avera lo ktara, not a small sin. Because he, Rav Shimon Hirsch, really felt that the job of being an Orla going with emancipation that was happening during that time in Germany was wow, mamash, the Gula was happening, in a way. And he didn't get the idea of what you were saying now, that Ephraim just wants to push forward and get to Eretz Yisrael, because he understands that's the real natural hub, incubator of where the nation has to be in order to be in its full potential. Okay, hope that answered the question. All right, share screen. Okay, so what we are reading is Rav Eyal Vered, who wrote this not so long ago. It was Shabbat. No, now we're into Zerem Tzara. He wrote this about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. It was put in the Olam Katan, and it really is fantastic. It really puts Seder in this. Okay. כמו כל אירוע פוליטי, גם אירועים שאנחנו בתוכם מונעים מזרמי עומק פנימיים הרבה מעבר למחלוקת האופי במערכת המשפט שלנו. So there's something going on under any time in history that something big happens. There's something behind it. Okay, it's not as isn't really as it seems. Or there was a movie. What was that? It's not what it seemed. Okay, it's not what it seems. There's something between the lines. And what's going on here is what? לא בכדי יש הרואים ברפורמה הזו את המעבר ממשיח בן יוסף למשיח בן דוד. משיח בן יוסף תפקידו לבנות, לעסוק בצדדים המעשיים, קיבוץ גלויות, בניין הארץ, מלחמות. התכונה המרכזית שלו היא הצלחה. אין לו זמן וגם לא יכולת לעסוק במרכיב הזהות, מרוב דחיפות של הצלחה בבניין. את המושג חייך קוממים חיי אויביך הוא מכיר היטב, ומכוחו הוא נלחם ומיישב ומתקדם. בכל פעם שעולה סוגיה הזהות, הוא דוחה את העיסוק בה. To put it aside, שאלת הר הבית, מיהו יהודי, גיור, בכלל סוגיות שטחי ארץ ישראל, anything that has to do with your actual true identity of who you are, we're pushing it aside. We don't have time for it now. We have to run forward. We have to create a nation. We have to create an am. We're just moving forward, run. Okay? Because why? Because I am in survival mode. I have to survive as a nation. אכן באותו הפעמים שעברה תנועה ציונית לעצור בעיני המהות, יזם מזה חורבן גדול, ישראליות משונה, because עידוד התבוללות, נאום השירותים של נשיא ריבלין, שקשה לעמוד על הנזק שגרם התנועה הציונית, מן הישראליות שהלכה להתרחקה משושב יהודים, ככל שהמצב פנה נהיה טוב יותר, מבחינה כלכלית ומבחינה ביטחונית, הלכה הישראליות ונשאבה לעבר לתחום הליברלי של זכויות הפרט ומרכיב הזהות היהודית של המדינה הלך ונהיה פונקציה של מספר היהודים הרב, אך לא של הגדרה מהותית. But anytime that the ציונות, which if you think about it is the national part of the Am, yes, wanted or started to speak about what is, what is that national part to it, they don't have the tools to do so, so they went and looked around. Oh, that looks like a good ruchani foundation. Let's go use that. And all you did was you ended up bringing actually to the destruction of the Yahudut part, because you don't have the right kilim to deal with it. But that's kadan. שביטל האפשרות להקים יישובים יהודים בלבד. אתוס ציוני מובהק היה סימן מובהק לכיוון הכללי. במובן הזה חוק הלאום שנחקק לא מזמן היה כמעט נס גלוי, וברור שהיום לא היה עובר. כידוע גם על החוק הפשוט הזה בג"ץ מעיין. בכל פעם ששמרה התנועה הציונית על מרחב המיועד לה, קרי בעניין חומרי של עם ישראל והאבן, היא זכה להצלחה בלתי רגילה. Because why? Because נאמר ביוסף, והיא איש מצליח. אבל בכל פעם שחרגה ועברה לעיסוקי מרחב הזהות, היא רק תקלה חמורה. And what is the reason for that? Because he didn't let in the יהודה part. הגעה של הציונות למחוזות הליברליים כמעט הכרחית. Because they have to fill that void. All right, so they're for sure going to go to liberalism because they have to fill that lacking void of רוחניות. אך כעת יש מדינת ישראל עוצמתית וחזקה. ואין תשתית ערכית יהודית עמוקה. המרוץ לזכויות הפרט הוא כיוון כמעט רחיב לתנועה ציונית. נקודת המעבר שאנו נמצאים בה כעת היא סוג של הטיית המשקל והכף לטובת החלק הגדול בעם, שהוא מסורתי. ומחובר בכל מיני רמות זהות היהודית שלו. כאשר הדברים של על זהות ההבחנה ברורה, מה אתה קודם, יהודי או ישראלי? זו שאלת המבחן. והיום יש אמרו, מה אתה בכלל, יהודי או ישראלי? כי ישראליות הולכת ומאבדת את הקשר העמוק היהודי שלה. So right now, we're all of a sudden at this tipping point that we see באמת, that now that we're so successful in being being a Yosef, now the void has to be filled in. All right, a great example is, if you look, the first generation of the Zionistic people that came to the country were connected to the Tanakh. The second generation, but they couldn't stand the halacha. The second generation hated anything that had to do with halacha, which also meant the Tanakh. And the third generation doesn't even know anything to hate. They Bemash don't know anything. And I'm going to be even more harif. If we're not careful, even the religious and the Masorti are going to lose it because that's exactly what happened. Is it becoming such a not part of the culture? You're just going to lose it if you don't talk.
Like replaced by Torah Shabbal Peh instead of Torah Shmitav?
Like replaced by spirituality of the nation, as opposed to what interests nowadays the younger generation isn't stories of the Tanakh or I don't know agadatans or something. It's what's going on on their TikTok, because there's a certain void that has to be somehow filled in with real tochen that isn't. And then that's what's so happening now. So we're right now at this tipping point. אם כך, זמן מעבר שלפנינו תופעת ייחודית שבה נמצא בשלטון מלא החלק הזה בעם ישראל. אין לנו שולחן ערוך להלכות ציבור. המקור היחיד שנוכל ללמוד ממנו כיצד מנהלים מעבר כזה הוא התנ"ך, ונכונה ההנחה היסוד שלנו, שמדובר במין תהליך מעבר בין משיח יוסף לקרי, התנועה הציונית במשיח בן דוד, קרי המשך הגמרא, מימוש חיים יהודיים שלמים, דרך הכלים המופלאים, שהכין הציונות, הרי יש עלינו חובה להביט כיצד התנהג דוד עצמו אל שאול בתקופת מעבר הזו. He says that we don't really have a textbook of what to do at this tipping point. And what we need to do, in his opinion, is to look at how David handled it. Okay? This Ma'avar between Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. What's interesting, so I'll mention only at the end and then remind this interesting thing. Okay. And what is that? So he basically, I'm just thinking because it's longer. Okay, he basically wants to go and break it down that there's 5 different things that we have to do in order to pass through this. And he says, David Watzodek. And there's a certain way of doing it. And if we learn from David and all these different things, we'll see exactly how David HaMelech was able to do it. Mechiv Rishon is man. To understand that it's a talich, it takes time. People are saying, oh my gosh, there's the Korban, what's going on? No, when I was traveling in the States and every time I meet someone from what's going on in Israel, so where? And I'll say people here. It's like it's just it's give it time. Give it time to span out. Things take time and nothing happens overnight. Haskama, David lo azav et Shaul, ad sheShaul birech oto. All right. The second thing is you have to understand that you are not allowed to just say goodbye to the Mashiach ben Yosef people and cut off from them. No, you want them to go with you through this tahalich and give you the bracha. The Merkiva Shlishi wa'ava. Don't forget, they're still your brothers. You still have David. Still was so sad once Shaul died. The Merkiva Revihu efes nekama. You can't go and they'll say, "Oh, this is what you did to us." Guess what? Well, we're gonna go do it back to you. No. The Merkiva Chamishi unisayon amitil lechaver. Besof hayom, Mashiach ben David can't stand on his own. He needs the concept of Yosef. And then he'll go on and through it, which again, I'll send the link. It's very, very worthwhile to read through it, which I won't do because I usually try to stop by 10. But what I will point out, it was interesting. See, I never fully understood until learning this sugya more to deeper, because that's what you do when you give over a share, you go over things that you think you had in your head clear, and then you want to make sure it really is clear because people can ask you questions. But let's say Rav Cherki always said that he started this thing called Brit Olam, which is for Bnei Noach. Because he always said to me, or me, said to students and stuff, he said that Am Yisrael, that the Tzionut Datit, or the Am, that's a certain point that we have to move to the next level, or we're going to start to have to do a regression. In other words, we created an amazing Medina. The Torah has never been so strong. The finance and the country as a whole has never been in such a good place. And now, if we don't do our next mission, our next step, which is to become slowly or Lagoim, we're going to start to have regression. So that's why straight away he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to start this next shlav," which was this whole thing with Bnei Noach. Because that we see clearly, right? If you look throughout history, you'll see that if you don't move forward, you're going to start regressing backwards. So I thought that was just interesting. Something I realized when I was going over this. All right, I hope I answered.
It's not going out and preaching to Bnei Noach. It's finding Bnei Noach that are interested. No.
No, right. It's our job is to be an address that if someone has a question, they should know that the address to Ratzon Hashem is Am Yisrael. So as long as you are here and you make people know that you're open for question, then people will come and approach you.
So does that work for Yosef, or you have to go out and try to get
you have to be because B'sof Hayom Meshiach ben David comes from Shevet Yehuda. So you have to have a strong foundation of a Yosef. On top of that, you start to fill in and build up your Yehuda part, and then you can become a Meshiach ben David. Okay. So what happens right now in Am Yisrael, if we look at our Am in the past 75 years, which is normally, if you look at Jewish history, 70 years is usually the tipping point to something. So what happened to us is we really build up the Yosef part, and it's very. I mean, again, I don't know how much you guys, being that you're Olim, not in a bad way. It's such an amazing thing to do, make Aliyah, but you're not in the culture as I would say immersed as someone that's been living here. So I can tell you personally that I know that the Chiloni back then was so much more knowledgeable than what the Chilonim are now. Like you just see it in the Tarbut. We become so much more westernized. But the reason is because you're building up the Yosef, and all of a sudden now I want to be like the other nation, right? So now I completely pushed aside when I was creating our judicial system, the Mishpat Ivri. So you're going to have a Supreme Court judges that don't even know what Mishpat Ivri is. They can't even tell what Shulchan Aruch is. And now you're going to have to try and fill it up with something else. And then you're going to have all these misconceptual ideas that are coming from super progressive worlds, because that's the new Ruchani of the world. So our job is to fill it up with the Yehuda part. And then once that's filled and good. Now the ideal is to always have the both. And that's why the Tilumi world, which always tried to live by the both, always got bashed by both sides, right? You're not Lumi enough, you're not Dati enough. I think Lat we'll see the mesh, but okay. I don't know if I answered what the topic was meant to be, which I hope I did. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to.
I have two questions or comments. One of them is that as opposed to Mashiach ben David, there's no real mention of it in the Rambam or in meaning. The concepts of what tells me we could say forever and ever, maybe at the Crusades, then again at the Chilmnetsky, and then again each time we could say now for sure by Mashiach ben Yosef, and then everything goes back to normal. And then it wasn't. Mashiach ben David, we have it, depending on who you want to go, like whether it's more spiritual or more physical, but there are very specific markers that say this is Mashiach ben David.
So Mukublani for my Rav, Sharki that's my Hashkafa, that's my main Rav. The Rambam wrote his Mishnah Torah as one Shita, or one ideal, the most ideal way how life is meant to span out as a nation. All right, the most ideal would be is that we're going to jump to Mashiach ben David, which would be straight away have this leader that will help us combine both and move forward. He didn't bring all the different shitot and so on, and he decided also. If you look at Mishnah Torah, the way he writes in a very I don't want to say idealistic, but with a certain, the Am Yisrael got to a certain shlach, right, a certain stage in life, and that's how he's writing his halacha. He's not writing it as if we're in the Galut and stuff. He's writing it, you're in the Eretz Yisrael. If you look at Chacham Malachim, it's very, very fun, very clearly cut. First, we're going to do this, you should do this, then you should do that, then you should, which Mitzias, we see that it's not going according to what he wrote. Which why? Because there's right B'itav. There's two different ways that it could be. It could come either from Shemaim, the Geulah, or it's going to come from the Am. It seems that what's happening is it's coming from the Am, and it's going a little bit not as smoothly as the Rambam wrote. It could go. It doesn't mean it. That's not just one shita. Okay, I hope that right. Better. All right, good. Well, I wish that with Hashem we should have a wonderful.
One little question.
Oh, please, yeah, sorry.
Just how would you say kitzonim, religious kitzonim, factor into this?
They're manifested with yehuda. They're the Galut Jew that lived in the shtetl, and all he is focused on is learning Torah. He completely disconnected himself from the Yosef. Completely disconnected. He doesn't even know. He only knows the Rambam. He doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know there's Meshiach and Yosef. And then what happens is it becomes unhealthy because if we're going to be very, we'll call it as it is. The Haredi world holds Judaism is not a nationality; it's a religion. Now, when you're only believing in religion, where are you going to get your conceptual understandings from? From other religions around you, because I'm a religion. Just like as a nation, you look at the world and see, oh, a healthy body means A, B, C. So a healthy nation means I have a good, what's it called?
GDP.
Thank you, GDP. And what's a healthy GDP? Oh, it's this, right? Same thing when it comes to religiosity. You're going to look at other religions. And what happened is, if you look at Judaism and you look throughout history, you'll see that we got a lot of our conceptual ideas from the Christians. So much of it. This isn't the time to discuss this, but it's very, very clear that a lot of the things that we hold and believe what religion is meant to be is not a Jewish kind of concept. A very, very clear-cut example would be, and this I'm going to put the last asterisk on the side, the Sephardic world was super healthy for some reason, probably because they weren't affected by the Avodah Zarah of the Christianity, but was they always managed to have this Masorati, Chiloni Dati type of guy, right? You can have the people would use a tar to shave off their beard, but at the same time, they still always went to, went to shul on Shabbos and stuff. And they even now you see the Masorti type of guy, and they always were okay with thinking about the Gula. There's historic reasons of Shirkis. It says probably because in Europe also they had Shabtai Tzvi and so on, but they were always okay with this mix. And when it comes to, for example, tshuva, Ashkenazim, mamish, repent, and to say sorry and be sad and sorrow. And Judaism doesn't have sorrow as a way of getting close to Hashem, ever. Afuch, even Hashem besimcha, right? The whole concept of how we're meant to do avodah Hashem is meant to be besimcha, and it's meant to be right? It's mamash meant to be that way. But instead, we were completely affected by Christianity, and there's a lot of ideas like that. The fact that Judaism is a religion that all of a sudden perverts the whole conceptual idea.
I think it's pretty obvious that this was a direct assault on Shtisel Chala, and I just want to say Yesh Chachma B'Goyim. So that's all. That's all I want to say.
Al Tamin.
All right. So B'ezras Hashem, we must have a happy and amazing Yom Ha'atzmaut. It's a big deal. We got to 75. B'ezras Hashem will continue forward, and the passing of the Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David will be smooth. What I'll do also is I'll send you guys, if anybody wants, Rav Yeshua Shapira. Yeshua Shapira, if you don't know who he was the Rosh Yeshiva, or still is the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivat Ramat Gan. One could say that he is one of the leading Ruchani, Hasidi, Machshavti Rabbanim in the Tzibur Dati Leumi. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's a pretty good way to put it. All right, so I'll send it to you guys, and that's all. Yeah.
Yeshakah.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Eitan, is there no shir on was it Tuesday night? Tuesday night, like we used to do? Or has that been a few
No,
years?
yeah, we stopped it. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. What's it called? I have a very wonderful thing going on in the Torah, and
Baruch Hashem.
yeah.
Are we invited?
John Duker is still continuing the Tish.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yes,
With the little Torah, some songs.
yeah,
Okay,
I think he's doing it still by me at 11 o'clock Tuesday night.
Oh, okay, excellent.
So anybody.
There
is
you
welcome.
go. There you go.
We don't need you, Eitan. See that?
No,
Yeah,
if at the end there won't be something happening, I know where to go.
Yeah, I have no idea who John sent it out to. He just asked me if you're having it by me again.